Hello my friends. Today I'm going to try making some translucent watercolor flowers. This is my inspiration photo, something like this. We'll see if it works out. I'm going to be using Arch's cold press 140-pound pure cotton paper, and that I've cut up, so you can see I've cut it in half here. This is the size. It's 9 by 12 cut in half. And I'm using a number of brushes. I'm not yet sure exactly which ones I'm going to use, but this snap brush, Princeton Newton snap brush in size 12 and size 6, and maybe in a size 0, I'm not sure yet. The other brushes that I like to use are this Winsor Newton size 4 Galleria round, and this one is a very tiny brush. I don't even know if you can tell the tip of it there. It's extremely thin, gets you very thin lines. It's a 4x0 Winsor Newton Cotman brush, round brush. So those are the ones that I'll be using today. I have my Winsor Newton watercolor set that I'm going to be mixing a couple of purples from, and some water, paper towel, mixing ceramic palettes. I'm not sure what to call this. And for the middle of the flowers, I might be using a little bit of white pen just to accent those on top of the dark watercolor. Okay, let's get started. I'm using a Diox Violet and a Mauve, which I've watered down. So this one's the Diox Violet, this is the Mauve, very watered down, so I have it. And then for the middle parts of the flower, I'm going to just dip a brush straight into the paint itself and allow it to be very saturated. So we're going to try to do a general, very loose kind of shape of the flower in this corner here. Let's see how it goes. Do like this. The petals are not symmetrical, so we're just going to do a rough shape like this. And maybe like that, this petal, and bringing it back in like that. And now I'm going to just add a little bit more paint to get it wet, especially around the edges. That seems to define the edges a little bit more. Go like this. And just to get some gradations of color, I'm going to put in from here and there some of that mauve. See how it blends a little bit. Okay, now I'm going to leave this to dry a little bit because I don't want it to be too wet when I add the middle color, that dark purple, because then it will spread everywhere. And I do want it to spread a little bit, but not everywhere. When we define those veins and everything, we need it to be a little bit wet, but not too wet. So I'm going to let that one dry. And dry just a little bit, and then I'll be back. Okay, so for the middle parts, I've let it dry for maybe a minute or so. It's still quite wet. I'm not sure if you can see it, but there's a bit of a sheen on it. Maybe you can see a little bit of that shine. So it's still quite wet, so we'll see how this goes. I haven't tried this before. I'm going to use my size 4 brush now. And I'm going to go right into water and into the dioxine, the dark purple, and try to get some on my brush. And I'm going to offset it just a little bit because it looks like the dark areas here. Okay, that's pretty good. And we like that little bleeding effect that's happening. So we're just going to do a little bit down here. And then while it is wet, we are going to run a toothpick through it. I forgot to list that in my supplies, but we're just going to use a regular toothpick, and we're going to try to drag some of that color. Let's see if this works. Yep. To some of the edges. And get some of that veining that we see in the picture. And then we can come back in and add some more with that very thin brush and we'll see how it works. So I'm going to keep adding some of this veining. And there's a lot of little veins that we will come back and add as well. So let's just do the main ones. Okay. So now let's go back and do some of the detailed ones. So we've got a lot of sideways branches. And I think I want to add a little bit more color to the middle. Saturate it a little bit more. So that it will bleed. And then let's continue with our toothpick, adding more of these lines. And we have some color to drag from that middle area. So, okay. Sideways lines. You have to work quickly, not too quickly, because the paper does stay wet for a while, so I think it's okay, but not too slowly because it will dry eventually and then this technique won't work. So let's see what we can do. A few more here sideways. It's good to keep looking at your reference photo, try to add details. It doesn't have to be exactly, you're not trying to replicate a photo, but you're trying to add as many details as you can. And not straight lines. Now there are some veins that are a little bit darker than the others. It's good to emphasize those a little more. And we can do that with our very thin paintbrush a little bit afterwards too. See that there's more of these sideways branches. Let's try more. Okay, I think I'm almost happy with that. So now I might use my very thinnest brush, that 444, and go back in, even with the watery paint, let's see. Come in and drag along some of those lines. Okay, let's let that dry, and then we'll come back and layer another flower over here to the right of it. We want to let it dry so this next petal will look translucent on top of this one, and we need that to be dry in order to see that. So we'll be back soon. Okay, we're going to try flower number 2. That's going to overlap this flower just a little bit. So I'm going to use my very watery purple. And I'm just going to loosely go on top, like this. And then let's spread it to here. Oops, it's okay. And like, it's a little bit curved, a little bit curved. Okay, let's add to here, a little bit, like this. Okay, and we'll fill it all in. Oops. Doesn't have to be perfect. Okay, and now let's go in and add a little bit more saturation of color. I do see that this is a little bit more like that. Okay. Just trying to observe the petal shapes. Okay, and we're going to add a little bit of our mauve as well, just to have a little bit of difference in color. And then just like the last one, we're going to let this dry before, not dry completely, dry a little bit before adding our middle color. Taking just a little bit off so that it's a little bit more translucent. And just emphasizing the edges because that makes it look nice. All right, let's let that dry. then we'll come back and add the middle purple. Okay, I've left it for about a minute or so. So again, it's still shiny, wet a little bit, but not sopping wet. And I'm gonna come in with more saturated color straight from the palette. And we're gonna add it to the middle of the flower. Let's see how it spreads. Yeah, that's a nice spread. You see that spread of color? I like that. So we're gonna emphasize the color in the middle. Yes, it's a nice color bleed. Okay, so somewhere in here, I'm gonna really saturate it with lots of color because we're gonna be dragging out this color. Let's do that. All right. And now from here, let's take our toothpick. And there's some main veins that we want to follow. So there's this one here. And there's one over here. Bit of a curve to it. This one. Go over here. And then there's lots of little veins. So we're going to go back in and draw all of our little veins. So we've got little ones like this coming not completely to the edge. Do a couple more to the edge because those look nice and sort of define our petals. Oh, this one I went a little beyond the edge. Oh no. We'll try to fix that later. Okay, that's fine. Okay, and now we need to go in and do all of the sideways ones. So a little bit of sideways, a little bit this way. Keep dragging from that middle area. Sideways, sideways. Okay. So from each of the main lines that you drew, you're just trying to pull veins to the side. If it gets a little bit too dry, there's nothing being pulled. You can add a little more of that dark color to the middle that we will be dragging through. So I've added a little bit more, and there we go. Now we've got some more to work with. This part's fun. You can be as precise or as random as you like with these veins. And the less straight and even it is, the more organic it really ends up looking, to be honest. You don't want to make them all perfect parallel lines. Just some little random movements. All right, I think we're almost done, and then we'll step back and take a look and see if we need to add any more anywhere. Let's take a look at that. Okay, that's looking good. I think that up here there should be a few more veins, so I'm going to come back and emphasize a few more up here. And let me add a little bit more of that dark color to the middle, so I can drag it. Okay. I'm going to go out from there. Let's see how that looks. Okay. I think we're almost there. A couple more to the edge. I mean, you can fiddle with this forever, really. Do it until you're happy with it, of course. I think we are good. So we're gonna let this one dry, and then we're gonna come in and do one last little flower here. And then when it's completely dry, we'll add our little details to the middle. Okay, we'll be back. Okay, so we're going to do our last little flower over here. He's on a bit more of an angle. I'll try to put a reference, the reference photo so you can see it again. He's a little bit more on an angle, so let's see how we tackle him. We're going to, like we did the others, do our very watery paint. Maybe we'll make this guy a little bit more mauve. Let's try our watery mauve paint. And we're going to go like this. And then we're going to go like this. A little bit of an angle here. Covering, just overlapping a little bit. You know what, for the sake of this one, let's overlap a little bit here too. Okay. And then we're going to keep it loose to the side. Let's see if that works. Something like that. Maybe a little bit more to the side here. Okay, let's try that. And now I'll just add a little bit more of our other color just to get those edges. And we will let that dry a little bit, and then we will, for like about a minute, and then we'll come back with our dark color in the middle and see how that works. Okay, we'll be back. Okay, so we've let this one again dry for about a minute or two so that it is still shiny. Maybe you can see the shine, but so not dry, but not as wet as when we first started. We're going to come in with our dark paint. This one we're going to be careful because this is a sideways flower, so the paint isn't in the middle like it is for the other two. It's a little bit more on the side, kind of following a petal like this. And then we're going to drag up from here. So let's add just a little bit more paint to this middle area. And then we'll start dragging with our toothpick. Dragging out. Dragging out. And those little sideways lines. This one seems a little bit more wet this time. So I'm just going to keep dragging and making my lines. I might have to wait a little bit till it's a little bit drier to make some of these lines a little bit more defined. But let me add a few more. We'll see how it goes. Sideways lines. Okay. This one is proving a little bit more difficult in that I don't know what I'm doing. Okay, a couple more towards the front. I'm trying to curve those petal lines. Okay, I'm going to keep working on that and then I'll come back. So this is the final painting. I added a few dots with the white Jelly Roll pen that I showed you at the beginning of the video, just to emphasize the middle of each flower. I think it gave it a little bit of depth. And I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you consider subscribing. I'll try to post another video soon, and have a great day.